whatever. And she said, yeah. And I kind of like stuttered out, like, well, I'm a writer, And she's like, oh yeah, well, send me something. I'm like, okay. And so I went home and I pumped something out, and I wrote about being a writer in Bali and what that was about for me, and the difficulties and whatnot. Trying to draw all these parallels to yoga to try to bring in these, all these spiritual tourists that are over there. Anyway, she didn't even acknowledge receipt of the essay that I sent. Never even said, hey, got your essay, nothing, whatever. So like 2 or 3 weeks later, I wrote this other thing just for myself. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna give her one last try, and I sent her this, and then she sent me this reply and said, love it, it's going in, done deal. I said, right on. I emailed my mother. So it's called Ego Writer. I have this horrible but sometimes helpful habit of walking around like I'm invincible. This has been much more pronounced over the last 10 years. During those same years, I've traveled to various countries: Guatemala, Belize, Thailand, Indonesia, China, Japan, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, and witnessed not only the unfortunate practice of other white travelers trying to assimilate for the week or two that they are wherever by going native, getting their hair twisted into cornrows, their skin tattooed with henna, or wrapping themselves in a lungi, but they are also often wearing fresh white bandages. These are courtesy of meeting the pavement at various speeds on motorbikes they don't ride at home, and types of traffic they might only encounter on video games. Now, I don't enter snicker at these injuries like I might at the sunburned strips of scalp exposed to the equatorial sun for the first time ever, but I have not been free of thinking that somehow these people just don't know what the fuck they're doing and should probably stick to 2 feet or passenger hood. My ego is also fed by the fact that I actually have a motorcycle license. I own a motorcycle, 7 times more powerful than what they ride here. More ego, yes. And I actually ride it at home. And as my friends here gradually fell victim to what seemed like a road rash epidemic, I should probably admit that my friend Cindy's comments that she sensed that I knew what I was doing as she was on the back helped to feed the illusion that I was impervious to crashing. I wasn't. I passed a car at about 55 kilometers per hour on the right as it slowed down on a 2-lane road. I didn't see a turn signal. The car turned into me. I locked up the brakes. There was a patch of dirty gravel. As my front wheel slid out from under me, I was sort of thinking that this couldn't be happening to me. Yes, the ego still. Just as quickly, I was skidding on the pavement, my left hand and elbow doing half a Pete Rose slide, and my bare left leg and flip-flopped foot underneath the bike, which came to rest on top of me. Locals ran to me from all directions, even the driver who had completed his turn and then got out. They lifted the bike off of me, walked me to the side of the road, grabbed a bunch of napkins from the nearest warung, and then stopped short when they got a closer look at my leg. You need hospital. I thought about riding all the way home, about 40 minutes away, but I knew the blood would be crusted over so much that it would be even harder and more painful to clean. I got directions, I rode myself there, the air in my wounds like a sizzling iron on my skin. Multiple nurses dug out pebbles from my leg and cut off the hanging meat from my elbow and knee. They scrubbed my leg with iodine. I punched the table. I pimp walked around for a week and a half. Some nights not being able to sleep from the pain. Some days wondering if my wounds were infected as my foot ballooned. I emceed at the Ubud Writers and Readers Festival for 4 days. My foot and leg got worse. After the event, taking it easier, they got better. But something still wasn't right. This became clearer when, trying to be a good coach, I did squats with my friend Blue from across the oceans in New York. A week and a half after my crash, I got an x-ray. My foot is fractured, soft cast refused, but now elevated on a drawer I pulled out of my dresser and put on the bed, a stack of shrink-wrapped laundry as the padding. I am humbled again, knowing I am not quite invincible. As my running friends in Cali run their half marathons, instead of joining them by running at 10,000 miles away, I cheered from afar, still grateful, still limping, and a little more right-sized.